My name is Madeline Brooks, and I'm 32 years old. If you had asked me a month ago what my future looked like, I would have given you the same little speech I'd practiced for my coworkers, my aunt, the barista who kept drawing tiny veils on my to-go cups. A spring wedding, simple dress, eucalyptus down the aisle. Nothing extravagant, just solid, safe, respectable, a life that felt anchored. I didn't grow up dreaming in lace and Pinterest boards. I was the practical one, the oldest child, the spreadsheet person, the one who reminded everyone else to eat before they got hangry. But somewhere along the way, with Jason, it all started to sound nice. Not fairy tale nice, just possible. Jason Miller, my fiancé, 29, ambitious, charming, in that curated, Instagram-ready way. He had the kind of smile my friends called dangerous, and a vision board for his life that included a house with white siding, 2 kids, and a golden retriever that always looked recently brushed. My mom used to laugh and say, "At least he's organized, honey." She said that before cancer, though. 4 months. That's how long it took from diagnosis to funeral. 4 months from, we found something, to me, standing in a black dress in my aunt's living room, listening to people tell stories about the woman who raised me, like their words could glue me back together. The funeral reception was small, maybe 40 people. My aunt's house smelled like ham, coffee, and grief. Too many casseroles, not enough air. Mom's coworkers from the library she'd worked at for 20 years. A couple neighbors who still remembered me as the girl who rode her bike in the cul-de-sac. My younger brother and sister, hollow-eyed and quiet. My Uncle Mark in his dress uniform because the funeral had been on a workday and he'd come straight from the station. And Jason, of course. He stood near me at first, one hand on my back in a way that looked supportive if you didn't know him. He'd brought a sympathy arrangement he'd picked because it would photograph well if anyone posted pictures. I heard him mention the florist's name twice. He kept checking his phone. I noticed it in flashes, the glow on his face, the slight frown, the tap-tap of his thumb. I told myself it was work, or his mom, or the wedding planner. Honestly, my brain felt like someone had stuffed it with cotton balls. Everything was underwater and slightly delayed. I didn't have the energy to ask. We ended up in the kitchen because that's where grief congregates. My aunt was at the stove pretending to stir something that didn't need stirring. My cousins leaned against the counter, talking in low voices. My little sister sat at the table, twisting a napkin into tighter and tighter ropes. I was standing near the sink when my dad's brother, Uncle Ray, the one my mom always called a lovable mess, asked the question. "So, Mads, what are you going to do with your mom's place?" The words hit me like a physical object. Mom's place. Context. Mom left me the house in her will. Small ranch, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, paid off. The estate lawyer had valued it at around $280,000. She also left me her savings, about $45,000. My brother and sister got her retirement accounts and what little else there was. Mom had kept it simple, fair. Typical mom. I opened my mouth. Jason beat me to it. "Finally," he said, bright and almost cheerful. "Now we can sell it and use the money for the wedding." The entire kitchen stilled. "I've been looking at this venue," he continued like he was giving a presentation. "It's all inclusive, 85 grand for everything. Catering, decor, live band, the whole 9 yards. It's perfect. This is like perfect timing, honestly. Perfect timing." My mother had been dead for 3 hours. I felt my fingers go numb around the paper cup I was holding. Coffee sloshed over my knuckles and I didn't even flinch. The air changed. You could feel it. My aunt froze, wooden spoon hovering over the pot. My sister's face crumpled, a fresh wave of tears spilling over. Uncle Mark's jaw tightened, that little muscle near his ear starting to twitch the way it does when he's about to read someone their rights. No one spoke. Jason looked around, confused that his TED Talk on leveraging assets wasn't landing. "What?" he said, laughing a little. "Don't look at me like that. We were going to keep the wedding small because of budget, remember?" He glanced at me like we were co-conspirators. "Now we don't have to. Maddie's mom would want her to be happy, right?" I stared at him. It was like my brain unspooled, replaying every moment he'd walked through my mom's house, casually measuring the living room with his gaze, tapping walls, and saying things like, "We could knock this out, open it up," or, "We'd get great resale value if we updated the kitchen." I'd thought he was just planning, dreaming out loud. Now I saw it for what it was, inventory. "Get out," I heard myself say. My voice didn't sound like mine. It came out flat. dead, like someone else was using my mouth. Jason blinked. What? Get out of my aunt's house, I repeated. Now. He huffed a disbelieving laugh. Baby, don't be dramatic. The word baby hit me harder than the perfect timing. He had just called my mother's death a financial opportunity, and he was still using pet names. You just said my mom dying was perfect timing, I said quietly. At her funeral, in front of my family. His eyes darted around the room like he was suddenly noticing the 40 people listening. Instead of looking ashamed, he looked annoyed. I didn't mean it like that, he said. You're twisting my words. Someone here needs to be thinking clearly. You're grieving, Maddie. You're not in the right headspace to make big decisions. I'm just trying to be practical. Get the hell out of my aunt's house, I said. He crossed his arms. Actually crossed his arms. Shoulders up, chin out, like a sulky teenager. No, we need to talk about this like adults. You're going to regret. Jason, it was my Uncle Mark this time. When Mark uses his work voice, people move. I've watched him diffuse drunken fights at barbecues with a single sentence. Sir, you need to leave, he said. Jason bristled. You can't tell me what to do. This is between me and my fiancé. Incorrect, my uncle replied. You're causing a disturbance at a private residence during a funeral reception. You can walk out, or I can escort you out. Those are your options. Jason looked at me, waiting for me to step in, to defend him, to laugh it off and say we were just stressed, that he didn't mean it. I didn't say a word. Are you seriously letting him do this to me? He demanded. Over me, being practical? Over one comment? Silence. My aunt's hand tightened around the wooden spoon until I thought it would snap. My sister stared at the floor. My brother's eyes were fixed on Jason like he wanted to put him through a wall. Uncle Mark stepped forward, took Jason gently but firmly by the elbow, and steered him toward the front door. Jason protested the whole way. How ungrateful I was. How he was just trying to help. How everyone was overreacting. How dare I humiliate him like this after everything he'd invested in our future. The door shut behind them. The house exhaled. Nobody moved for a moment. Then Uncle Ray, the family disaster, cleared his throat. Well, he said, dodged a bullet there, kid. A few people laughed weakly. Mostly there was just that stunned, shell-shocked quiet. I walked outside because the walls felt too close. Sat down on the porch steps. The evening air was cool against my face, a little damp. I stared at the patch of driveway where Jason's car had been and tried to feel something. Anger, sadness, anything. Nothing came. After a while, I felt the step creak beside me. My sister sat down without saying a word. She slipped her arm through mine and rested her head on my shoulder. We watched the streetlights flicker on. My phone started buzzing again around midnight. I was in my childhood bedroom at Mom's house, lying on a twin bed with a floral quilt that suddenly smelled more like her than the closet full of clothes we hadn't touched yet. The screen lit up the dark. Jason. Baby, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it that way. You know I loved your mom. I'm just trying to make sure you're taken care of. New message. You're being ridiculous. We need to talk about our future. About the house. Our future. The house. I stared at the words long enough for them to blur. For a second, I almost answered. Almost told him how much it hurt. How tired I was. How I couldn't breathe without feeling like something was missing from the air. Instead, I opened the contact, scrolled to the bottom, and hit block. The quiet that followed wasn't peaceful. It was just still. Heavy. Like the moment right after a car accident where your brain hasn't caught up yet. Outside, the neighborhood was dark and familiar. Somewhere down the hall, my sister's door clicked shut. My brother coughed in his sleep. The clock on my old desk ticked. I curled on my side, facing the bookshelf my mom had helped me organize when I was 13, and let the darkness press in around me. I didn't know it yet, but that one blocked number was the first line in a very long battle. At the time, it just felt like the only thing I still had control over. The morning after the funeral didn't feel real. For a second, when I woke up, I forgot where I was. The ceiling was too low, the fan too loud. Then I saw the old poster of constellations on the wall and the dresser with chipped white paint, and it hit me like a second loss. I was in my teenage bedroom, at my mother's house, because she was gone. The house felt different without her in it. Too quiet, even with people moving around. You know how some homes have a heartbeat? A rhythm of footsteps, humming, cabinet doors, random music in another room? This one felt like a body with the pulse missing. By 7 a.m., my siblings and I were already up. None of us had really slept. We made coffee and sat around Mom's dining table with boxes and trash bags. The estate lawyer had told us, very gently, that we could take our time. There was no deadline. But my aunt kept saying it was better to do something, even small things, before everything turned into an altar we were afraid to touch. So we started with the easy piles: mismatched Tupperware, old mail, magazines. We cried over a cracked mug when we realized it still smelled like her cinnamon tea. We were in the middle of arguing about whether to keep the ugly rooster cookie jar when someone started pounding on the front door. Not knocking, pounding. My brother Liam startled so hard he dropped a stack of plates. What the? It's fine, I said automatically, even though I had no idea if it was fine. The pounding came again, harder. I already knew who it was before Liam opened the door. Jason. He looked rumpled, like he hadn't slept either, but it was the wrong kind of rumpled. Hair carefully messy, shirt half untucked in a way that said he'd changed outfits, not rolled out of bed. I need to talk to Madeline, he said, trying to push past Liam like he still lived here, like this was his right. This is ridiculous. Liam planted his feet. He's not as tall as Jason, but he's solid. You're not welcome here, man, he said. His voice was calm, too calm. I'm her fiancé, Jason snapped. Move! A small, dark satisfaction lit up in my chest at what came next. My sister Ava appeared out of nowhere and stepped into the doorway beside Liam. She's 5'10" and built like someone who lifts heavy things for fun. Not anymore, she said. Jason's eyes flicked over her shoulder and landed on me. I'd come to the hall but stayed back, one hand on the door frame to keep my legs from shaking. Maddie, he said, his tone instantly changing, smoothing. Baby, please, we need to talk. You blocked my number. That's not fair. Don't call her that, Ava hissed. It's fine, I said softly. I walked forward until I was close enough that I could smell his cologne. Clean, sharp, completely wrong in this house. What do you want? I asked. His eyebrows shot up like I'd asked a stupid question. I want to fix this. I want to talk about yesterday. You overreacted. Somewhere behind me, a box ripped. I heard my aunt mutter something under her breath that sounded like a prayer with swear words in it. You told a room full of people that my mom's death was perfect timing, I said. There's nothing to fix. He rolled his eyes. Actually rolled them. I was talking about the logistics, Maddie. Someone has to. Look, we need to lock in the venue. The deposit is due next week or we lose the date. And we should talk about selling this place before the market. Stop talking, I said. He blinked. Excuse me? The funeral was yesterday, I said. We haven't even gotten through her closets. My brother and sister are still sleeping in the rooms we grew up in, and you're on the porch talking about deposit deadlines. Because I care about our future, he snapped. Do you think weddings book themselves? Do you have any idea how much work I've put into planning this? I've spent months. There is no wedding, I said. The words came out steady. They surprised even me. His face changed. The concern dropped like a mask being yanked off. What was underneath wasn't grief. It wasn't even hurt. It was cold. Don't be stupid, he said. Liam shifted. Watch it. Jason ignored him. You're upset. I get it. You just buried your mom. You're not thinking straight. We're not throwing away 2 years because you didn't like how something sounded. I let out a short, humorless laugh. I didn't like how something sounded? He spread his hands, frustrated. You're twisting this. All I meant was, this opens up options. You inherit a paid-off house. That's huge. We can have the wedding we deserve instead of some budget version in a community hall. We can sell this place, pay for the venue, put a down payment on... Say perfect timing one more time, Ava said quietly. He glared at her. You're not helping. And you're not hearing her, Liam added. She said there's no wedding. That means you leave. Jason turned back to me, eyes incredulous, like the three of us were performing some elaborate prank. You're really doing this? Over one comment? Maddie, be serious. We have vendors booked, deposits paid. My mom has already sent save the dates. You can't just... Your mom can send a follow-up, I said. Change of plans. No wedding. Problem solved. His jaw clenched. So that's it? You keep your mom's house and your inheritance and I just get nothing? There it was. I felt something inside me click, a small, precise piece sliding into place. This was never yours, I said. None of it. His lip curled. Wow. Okay. Fine. Keep the stupid house. But you're not keeping the ring. That's $8,000 of diamond on your finger. You don't get to walk away with that after this little show. Ava made a strangled noise. Oh my God. I didn't look at her. I stared at Jason for a long second, then turned and walked past him, down the small path to the driveway. My car sat where I'd left it when we came from the funeral. The dress I'd worn yesterday was still crumpled in the back seat, tossed there when I couldn't stand the feel of it anymore. I opened the glove box. The engagement ring was right where I'd shoved it the night before, in its velvet box, like a dead insect pinned in place. I carried it back to the porch without opening it. Jason watched me, smug, like he thought this meant he'd won. I stopped a foot in front of him, flipped open the box, and tossed it at his feet. "There," I said, "now get lost." For a second, he just stared at it, stunned. Then he dropped to a crouch and scrambled to pick it up, fingers fumbling like Gollum in a suit jacket. He closed his fist around it, straightened, and waited. Waited for me to apologize, to cry, to reach for him. When I didn't move, something in his face hardened. "You're making a huge mistake, Omaik," he said. "You think any other guy is going to put in this kind of effort? You think you're going to do better than me?" "Leave," Liam said. Jason shook his head, scoffed, and stalked toward his car. He peeled out of the driveway so fast the tires squealed. My aunt came to stand in the doorway, arms crossed. "What did you ever see in him?" Liam asked quietly. I opened my mouth, then closed it. I honestly didn't know, or maybe I didn't want to know the real answer yet. That I'd been tired. That it was easier to let someone else plan my life than admit I had no idea what I wanted. "The relationship was easy," I said finally. "He planned everything. I thought that meant he cared." Ava snorted. "He cared about something." I went back inside before my legs gave out. The day blurred after that. We sorted more boxes. People dropped off more food we didn't want. My aunt kept making everyone drink water. My phone rang a few times from unknown numbers. I let it go to voicemail. It was late afternoon when I finally checked. There were 3 voicemails from Jason's mother. The first one was tight and falsely sweet. "Madeline, it's Carol. I'm sure there's been some misunderstanding. Jason says you're very emotional right now. Of course you are, poor thing. Call me back and we'll straighten this out." The second one was sharper. "Madeline, ignoring us is extremely rude. Jason has invested 2 years of his life in you. You don't just throw away a good man because you didn't like how one sentence sounded in a stressful moment. You know how he is. He speaks before he thinks sometimes. You should be more understanding." The third one didn't bother to pretend. "You are making a huge mistake. My son loves you, and you are repaying him by humiliating him in front of your entire family and stealing what's rightfully part of your life together. That house should be shared. Your mother would be ashamed of how you're behaving." I stared at the phone. Then I hit call back before I could talk myself out of it. She answered on the first ring. "Madeline, your son stood in my aunt's kitchen 3 hours after my mom's funeral and called her death perfect timing," I said. My voice didn't shake. "For his dream venue, for his Instagram wedding. He has talked more about that house's resale value than he ever talked about how I'm actually doing. I don't owe him or you anything." "You're twisting his words," she said sharply. "He didn't mean—" "He meant it," I said. "You both did. You see my mom's life as a financial opportunity. I see it as 32 years of sacrifice and love that you clearly don't understand." "You're being cruel," she hissed. "My son is devastated." "Is he devastated about losing me?" I asked. "Or devastated about losing access to a $280,000 house?" There was a beat of pure, stunned silence. Then she started to screech about how ungrateful I was, how Jason had put up with my family, how I was throwing away stability over pride. I held the phone away from my ear and stared at the pattern on the table. When I couldn't take another second, I put the phone back to my ear and said, "Do not call me again." Then I hung up and blocked her number too. Later that evening, as the sun bled out over the backyard, my phone buzzed one more time. This time it was an unknown number, but the voicemail wasn't his mother or one of his friends. "Hi, Madeline," a woman's voice said. "It's Jenna, your wedding planner. I just wanted to confirm something with you directly. Jason's been calling me nonstop, asking me to bill you for the cancellation fees. It's about $2,400. The contract clearly states whoever cancels pays, which in this case is him, but he keeps telling me you inherited money, so you can afford it. Also, he tried to keep your wedding date and just change the bride's name. I told him that's not how this works. Before I proceed, I wanted to make sure the engagement is actually off." I sat at my mom's kitchen table, listening to my almost wedding being discussed like a failed event, and something inside me cooled into steel. I called her back. "Yeah," I said when she picked up. "It's off, completely off. He's responsible for his own bills. I'm not paying a cent." She sighed, sympathetic. "I'm really sorry, Madeline. And, for what it's worth, in 15 years of doing this is a new one. Him trying to just swap out the bride like a placeholder. You're dodging something big here." "I'm starting to realize that," I said. After I hung up, I sat in the dim kitchen and let the silence stretch. Mom's cat jumped onto the table and headbutted my arm, like he was reminding me I wasn't completely alone. I scratched behind his ears and stared at the envelope with the will still sitting by the fruit bowl. Jason hadn't been crying over me. He hadn't even been crying over her. He'd been crying over a lifestyle he thought he'd already purchased. For the first time since she died, I felt something stand up inside me, taller than my fear, louder than my grief. Whatever came next, I wasn't going to let him turn my mother's life into his business plan. I didn't know it then, but the next few days were going to peel back every layer I'd ever wrapped around Jason, every excuse, every benefit of the doubt, every soft edge I'd drawn around his sharper ones. Grief had been blinding me. What came next felt like someone finally opened a window. The morning after the planner call, I drove back to my apartment for the first time since the funeral. I'd changed the locks the night before, following Uncle Mark's advice, but the place still felt invaded by memories of Jason. His shoes used to sit by the door in perfect alignment, the way he liked them. His cologne used to linger in the hallway. His jacket used to hang on the back of the chair like he lived there, which, I realize now, had always bothered me. Now the apartment was bare of him, but it didn't feel peaceful. It felt exposed, vulnerable, like a house with all the curtains ripped off. I made myself tea, stood at the counter without drinking it. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. For a split second, I hoped it was someone from my mom's work, or an old friend, or literally anyone else. It was Jason's best friend, the one I'd always secretly liked, because she was smart, sarcastic, and had once whispered to me at a brunch party, "Girl, blink twice if you want rescue." Jenna, not the planner, this was his actual friend. "Can we meet? I need to tell you something, and I'm not comfortable texting it." My gut twisted, but something told me this wasn't a trap, so I agreed. We met at a small coffee shop near my apartment, the kind with too many hanging plants and mugs that weighed as much as toddlers. She was already there, fidgeting with her straw wrapper. "Mads." She stood when she saw me. Her hug was tight, fierce. "I'm so sorry about your mom." I nodded. "Thanks." We sat. She didn't touch her coffee. "This stays between us," she said quietly. "I shouldn't be telling you, but after what he pulled at the funeral, I can't stay quiet." A crackling anxiety rose in my chest. "Jason's been talking about your mom's house for months," she said, "since before your mom even got sick." My stomach dropped. "Talking how?" I asked. She looked around, then leaned in. "He kept saying things like, 'Once Maddie inherits, we'll sell immediately and use the profit to level up.' He literally said, 'level up.' He had plans for a down payment, renovations, flipping. He talked about passive income projections for your mom's house, like it was already his asset." My fingers tightened around my cup. "And when your mom got diagnosed," she hesitated. "He said it was sad, but the timing was convenient, because the market was so hot." The words hit me like physical blows. I didn't breathe for several seconds. "He what?" My voice cracked across the table. She nodded miserably. "I'm sorry, I should have told you sooner. I thought maybe it was just him being Jason, big talker, always scheming. But after what he said at the funeral, that wasn't an accident. He's been thinking like this for a while." My throat went tight. "I'm so sorry," she said again. "I liked you. I still do. I didn't know how deep it went until yesterday." I didn't remember driving home. I only remembered sitting in my apartment afterward, staring at the walls like they were a puzzle I'd never noticed was missing pieces. Jason hadn't started seeing the house as his after my mom died. He'd been eyeing it long before. The truth wasn't just ugly, it was rotten, old, like it had roots. Later that afternoon, I drove back to Mom's house to drop off some boxes. My siblings were out, so the house was quiet. I went into her bedroom for the first time since the funeral. Everything was still there. Her slippers by the bed, her glasses on the nightstand, her robe slung over the chair. It felt wrong, intrusive, but I opened her desk drawer because we needed to start somewhere. Inside, beneath a stack of cards and old receipts, was an envelope with my name on it. Madeline. My breath hitched. I opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a handwritten letter dated 2 weeks before she died. Her handwriting was careful but uneven. She must have been tired. "Sweetheart, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm so sorry. I wish I could be there with you. I know you're hurting, and I wish I could help you through this." I pressed the letter to my chest for a second before reading the rest. "There's something I need to tell you. I've kept quiet because you seemed happy, and you deserve to be happy. But I don't trust him. Jason." My hands shook harder. "I've tried, baby. I really have. But whenever he visits, he's looking at the house, measuring rooms with his eyes, asking about property values, talking about what he'd change. He talks about money and plans, but not about you. He doesn't ask how work was, or if you're tired, or how your day was. He talks about what you can give him, not who you are. Please make sure he loves you for you, not for what you have or what you might inherit. Trust your gut. Don't ignore it the way I did at your age. I love you so much. Mom. I slid to the floor and cried. Not pretty crying. Ugly crying. The kind where your breath stutters and your heart feels like it's tearing open. All the dots connected at once. The house tours he insisted we go on for inspiration. The way he always talked about our future in financial terms. The way he looked at my mom's place like it was a Pinterest board to be flipped. Mom had seen all of it. She'd tried to warn me, and I'd been too grateful for companionship, too tired from work, too scared of being alone to listen to my own instincts. But I could listen now. I folded the letter back into the envelope and put it in my bag. Then I drove straight to Uncle Mark's house. He was sitting on his porch in uniform pants and a t-shirt, drinking iced tea. When he saw my face, he didn't ask questions, just patted the chair beside him. I sat, handed him the letter. He read it slowly, jaw tightening as he went. When he finished, he looked at me for a long moment. "You're going to need to protect yourself," he said. "He's not done." "I know," I whispered. "You change your locks?" "Yes." "Good. Don't let him in. Don't let him move anything in. Don't let him create a paper trail that suggests he lived there or contributed financially." My stomach twisted. Would he really try something like that? His look said, "You already know the answer." "What about Mom's house? The will was clear. And it stays that way," he said. "It's yours. Only yours. Don't put his name on anything. Don't let him show up with so much as a throw pillow." I nodded, swallowing hard. "And start documenting," he added. "Times, dates, screenshots, voicemails, everything." "Is it going to get that bad?" I asked. He didn't answer immediately. Then, "He's already shown you he thinks your mother's death is a financial opportunity. You need to assume he won't stop until someone makes him." He was right. The letter came 2 days later. A cheap white envelope, law office printed in an outdated font. My name spelled wrong. Inside was a formal demand letter claiming Jason had financial stake in the marital assets acquired during the relationship. Marital assets. We were never married. He wanted part of my mom's house because we were engaged. Engaged. That's all. I stared at the paper until the words blurred. Then I called a lawyer recommended by one of Uncle Mark's colleagues, a woman named Ruby Vaughn, sharp-voiced, brilliant, and ruthlessly calm. She listened to the whole story. Then she laughed. Not mocking, just a long, incredulous exhale. "He has zero claim to anything your mother left you," she said. "You are not married. Engagement gives him no rights. This is a scare tactic. I'll handle it." "What do?" I asked. "Nothing," she said. "You block him. I'll deal with his bargain bin attorney. Give it 2 weeks. They'll drop him when they realize there's no case. These types always do when there's no retainer and no winnings." She was right. Jason's lawyer dropped him within 5 days. But Jason didn't drop anything. Not me, not the house, not the obsession. The texts, the calls, the pressure, it all morphed instead of ending. And somewhere in me, something hardened. Mom had warned me. I hadn't listened then, but I was listening now. I spent the next few days in a kind of quiet fury, the kind of anger that simmers beneath the surface, waiting for its moment to strike. I wasn't just angry at Jason anymore. I was angry at myself for letting it go on so long, angry at the way he'd used my grief, my family's tragedy, as an entry point to manipulate me. I started keeping a log, like Uncle Mark suggested. Dates, times, texts, phone calls. Every attempt he made to breach my boundaries. Every lie he told. The day he tried to claim he was entitled to my inheritance. The day he showed up at my work, demanding that I speak to him. It didn't stop. And with every attempt, I could feel myself changing. It was like a mental lock clicking into place, one I hadn't even known was there before. One afternoon, about 2 weeks after the demand letter, I came home from work to find an unexpected visitor in my apartment building lobby. Jason's mom, Carol. She was standing by the elevator, looking at her phone, her face a mask of faux sympathy. She looked up when I walked in, her expression quickly twisting into something else. Irritation, maybe? Frustration? Her lips thinned as she saw me approach. "Madeline, we need to talk," she said without preamble. "About Jason. You're hurting him, and I won't let you destroy his life over a misunderstanding." I didn't stop walking. "You need to leave," I said, voice low and measured. She followed me as I walked past her, almost like she thought I hadn't heard her. You need to understand. He's been through so much. He loves you, and you're just throwing it all away. This house, it's our future. You think your mother's death means you get to have it all, don't you? I felt the fury bubble up inside me, but I kept my face steady, not letting her see how deep it went. How much it hurt to hear her talk about my mom like this, like she was just an obstacle to a property deal. No, I said, turning to face her now. You've got it all wrong. You think you can talk about Jason and me and my family like it's all a business decision, but it's not. This house is my legacy. It's not a piece of real estate for you to try to take. She opened her mouth, but I raised my hand, cutting her off. No, you're done here. Get out. The look on her face was almost comical for a second, her eyes wide, a split second of disbelief. And then she did what I'd expected. She tried to guilt me. She pulled that old card about family loyalty, about how I was ruining everything Jason had worked for, but I could see it now. I could see the manipulation in her eyes. The same thing Jason had done. I didn't argue. I just walked away, letting the door close behind me. The tension in my chest didn't ease, but it did something else. It gave me clarity. I wasn't just fighting Jason. I was fighting a whole system of entitlement, manipulation, and control that had somehow infiltrated my life under the guise of love. And I was done letting it slide. That night, I sat in my apartment, flipping through the logs I'd started keeping. I kept imagining Jason sitting in some office, listening to his lawyer tell him it was over, that the case was dismissed. I wondered if he would still try to find a way back in, if he would keep coming after me, after the house, after everything he thought he deserved. But this time I was ready. I didn't have to take it. I didn't owe him anything. The next morning, I got a call from Ruby, my lawyer, the one I'd hired after Jason's lawyer had dropped him. Ruby's voice was a relief. Calm. Professional. You're not going to hear from Jason or his lawyer again. He's backed off for now. I've had a word with them. You've got all the documentation you need, and if he tries anything else, I'll handle it. But for now, you're clear. I didn't feel the relief I thought I would. Instead, I felt like the door to something new was finally opening. I'm still not sure what the next step is, I said, more to myself than to her. How do you move on from something like this? Ruby laughed softly. You let go of what you thought you needed to hold on to, and you trust that you've got everything you need already. You've got your family. You've got your future. A week later, the phone rang again. This time it wasn't Jason. It wasn't even his mother. It was a real estate agent. Hi, Madeline, the agent said, his voice pleasant but professionally neutral. We've got an offer on your mom's house, a cash offer, no contingencies, ready to close in the next week. I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me as I sat there in my chair, looking out over the city. The house was gone. I'd already made the decision with my siblings. It was time to sell. There were too many memories there, too many moments that would never be what they once were. I said yes to the offer, agreed to the terms, and hung up. And in that moment, for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. 2 days later, I packed up a small box of keepsakes from Mom's house, things that felt important. A picture of us from when I was 6, a chipped teacup I remembered her drinking from, a sweater that smelled like her lavender lotion. I set the box on the seat next to me as I pulled out of the driveway for the last time. I didn't look back. Not this time. The next few months were a blur. I didn't think about dating, about trying to find someone new. I didn't think about love at all. Instead, I focused on my job, on the house I was rebuilding on my own terms, on my future, not Jason's, on the family who was still there, the family that mattered. And for the first time in my life, I allowed myself to picture a future that was mine, a life that wasn't built on anyone else's dreams, not Jason's, not even my mom's, just mine. No one had ever asked me to be more than I was. But now I knew I could be everything I wanted, without anyone else's permission. The day the house closed and the money hit my account, I took a breath. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was running away from something. I felt like I was walking towards something new, something that was all mine. I didn't send Jason a final text. I didn't need to. I just put the money in savings, paid off some lingering bills, put the rest into my retirement account. I framed my mom's letter and kept it on my desk. And I never looked back.